Hi, it's your girl, Frankie Bunny. What's up? We are back with some more. I forgot. What are we playing? Jekyll and Hyde. Okay, so in the last episode, we just found out. We just found out. Find out. Found out. We just found out. I'm an English teacher. I should know this. Found out. We just found out that Lanyon is pious with Dr. Jekyll. And we both know that those two bitches don't get along. Right? Dr. Lanyon's surprising narrative. So we're moving on to this chapter. But before that, I'm sure we have new data files. A little more. Okay, so we kind of skipped it over. I'm sorry. Dr. Jekyll invited his friends and acquaintances to a dinner party. It would be nice to take a bottle of wine as a gift. Dr. Jekyll confirms his long friendship with Utterson and Dr. Lanyon. This is when they were starting to be like buddy-buddy. Hang on. I'm getting nervous that I might accidentally press the unrecord button. Clue 4. He has done experiments to separate man's good and evil egos. This was a recording log. Dr. Jekyll felt dizzy while outside. Dr. Jekyll looked like a good man, but he was arrogant. Dr. Jekyll wishes to be left alone in his laboratory. Dr. Lanyon's condition worsened rapidly, and he said he would die soon. It looks like a great fear has rooted deep within him because of a shocking truth. Dr. Lanyon refused to talk about Dr. Jekyll and decided to cut all ties with Dr. Jekyll. I'm getting hungry, but we will eat later. Anyways, I would just like to share, I'm kind of like in the bad mood starting from when I woke up around 8 a.m. I don't know why, but I think it was because I woke up to a big mess and my nephew just decided to slap me in the face. I mean, wouldn't you be in a bad mood if you woke up with a baby slapping you in the face? I mean, I love him. It's just funny to talk about it now. Just saying. Alright. Since Jekyll never seems to leave his house, I'll send him a letter. I'll write to him. That's a good idea. I wrote a letter to Jekyll as soon as I got home. I asked him why he shut himself up in his room without letting me in and what happened to Lanyon. What did you do? Jekyll sent me a long reply the next day. I couldn't completely understand the letter. It was overly sentimental and didn't make sense. I can't understand this letter. You are a sinner. You want me to keep silent until I can help relieve the burden of your destiny. Oh, Jekyll, what are you trying to say? My love, please. The evil energy departed when Mr. Hyde disappeared and Jekyll came back to the world. But no long after, his peaceful life fell apart, taking everything he had with it, including his friendships. I can't help but think that Jekyll has lost his mind. It looked like Lanyon had more to say, but I couldn't ask him. Why has Jekyll locked himself up in his room? What on earth is going on with him? All I could do was wait for him. 3 weeks later. Are you having fun? Please leave a review. Next time, my good woman. I took care of all my correspondence with my clients, so I shouldn't be getting any letters. Why are you here? Lost friendship. Ignoring the curiosity and completely overcoming it with 2 different things. Mr. Utterson, it's a letter from Dr. Lanyon. And tell me. No, it can't be. Okay, first of all, Dr. Lanyon can't be dead. Why would he write you a letter? That doesn't make sense. Oh no, funeral. He did. Dr. Hasty Lanyon has passed away. We would like to invite you to attend his funeral, Mr. Utterson. God bless you. Lanyon. Lanyon. You have really... Case of Lanyon's death has been loaded. This is the last one. Dr. Jekyll planned to live in hiding without seeing his closest friend, Mr. Utterson and Dr. Lanyon. He wrote that he had committed a horrifying crime and he was in a lot of pain because of it. Yeah, 'cause he killed someone. Any, are there new cases? None. Okay. Goody drum drops. Right. London map. We be going to Cavendish Square because that's where Lanyon lives. Oh, it's quiet. I hear no music. Mr. Utterson. How are you, sir? Please come in. Truly sorry about your master. This is sad. Hey, let's talk to the butler first. I didn't think his condition would get worse so suddenly. Funeral was fairly small. Was this Dr. Lanyon's request? Yes. Master wanted a small, simple funeral. He never wanted many visitors either. I'm sure many people wanted to say goodbye to Dr. Lanyon. Yes, I'm sure that by now everybody in London has heard Dr. Lanyon's death. Lanyon. Oh, Lanyon. Dr. Lanyon was a good man. He was the best doctor in London. Yes, it's true. There will be flowers to bloom on Dr. Lanyon's grave. Of course, he was a good man. I didn't know Dr. Lanyon would pass away before me. He was younger than I. He was very hot-tempered, but was cheerful and warm-hearted. When I retired, he gave me this pocket watch. Must be a precious gift. Now that Dr. Lanyon isn't here, it's even more precious to me. Oh, sorry. My heart. Gasp. Did something happen? I was so surprised. I'm sorry for my sudden utterance at the funeral. I saw an owl outside of the window that afternoon. And at the funeral, I'm scared that there might be another funeral. The painting seems to be moving. Superstition. Lanyon. I can't believe you're gone. I didn't know that would be our last conversation. I realized too late. I should have paid more attention to you. I'm sorry, I only spoke what was on my mind. Coming here is all I could do for you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Lanyon. I should have apologized to you. Please observe some common decency. This is my master's last farewell. Dr. Lanyon passed away so suddenly. Hang on, I'm sorry. I know this is weird. Just don't mind me. Okay. This case includes an illustration enhanced by gameplay. Yes, I will purchase it. Mr. Utterson, please take this. It's a letter from the master to you. Thank you for seeing off my dear friend. Thank you, he must have felt relieved to have you by his side. Oh! Why did you add the rain? Lanyon left me a letter before passing away. On the envelope was written, "Do not open before Jekyll dies or disappears." The word disappearance in Jekyll's will was surely related to Mr. Hyde. But why would Lanyon write disappear? I want to solve that mystery right then and there, but I couldn't ignore his last request. Ignoring the curiosity and completely overcoming it with different things. After Lanyon's death, I became even more worried about Jekyll. It wasn't the same man I had known. Paul couldn't even give any good news either. Every time I went to see Jekyll, I was told he still confined himself to his lab. So I stopped visiting him. There have been 2 weeks later. There have been times by the window, the weekend stroll with Mr. Einfeld, or an unexpected meeting. Okay. Okay, wait, hang on. I want to talk about this. There have been times where there's a funeral and then it started raining, and we usually tell the guests to inform their guests to bring umbrellas, because even though we had a few extras, when I was working there, we had a few extra umbrellas. We weren't supposed to hand them out to guests because they were kind of like giveaways to all of the agents, funeral agents who have been recommending our the funeral home that I was working for. So we usually tell the guests to bring their own umbrellas, or we inform the client that we have to tell their guests to bring a few umbrellas. Most of the time it wouldn't rain, but in the Philippines, when the monsoon season comes up, it usually rains. So there have been times where a funeral just hits a lot harder when people are walking beside I forgot what they call it in English, but it's basically the car where the casket goes in, and it's just more, it just has a more sad ambiance when you see a bunch of people in like black clothing holding their umbrellas up, and it's like slightly drizzling, and following a black funeral car all the way to the cemetery. And they usually walk because it's close by, it's nearby, it's usually nearby. And there have been times where I'm just like, I know it's inappropriate, but I want to draw this. I'm a mortician. I'm so used to death that sometimes I get bothered by how used to how used to death I am. Because there have been like conversations like with my friends, or with a boyfriend that I'm dating. I would start talking about work back then, and then he was like, "Can we change the topic, please?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." But anyways, let's continue. By the window to the walls. Anyways. Cases of Dr. Lanyon's will. Hi, Einfeld. How have you been? When will you and Utterson? By the window. On one Sunday, Mr. Utterson and Mr. Einfeld passed by accident. I don't have enough money, so I'm just gonna close this. I'll close it. If you go back to the main story without completing the case, you can reset the case. Yeah, go back. It's okay. But yeah. Let's just read some case files because I'm out of money. Hello, Pool. What are you doing here? I'm not gonna talk to you for a bit. I'm just gonna read case files and then end it there. Okay. Dr. Lanyon, who seemed very sick, passed away. The envelope said the following: to be opened by Mr. Utterson only in the case of his death. This letter should be destroyed. The instructions were clear. On the envelope, Dr. Jekyll had written not to open before he dies or disappears. Okay. Okay. Alright, so this one is chapter 4, this one is chapter 1, which means there's no way I could get it unless I go back to it. So, ever since the Industrial Revolution, newsboys made a living by selling newspapers on the streets and delivering them at homes. I finally figured it out. I'm sorry, it took me so long. Alright. Gin is made with rye scented with juniper berries. The alcohol tax was high in Great Britain, so gin was popular since it could be made on the cheap and low quality grains. It was especially loved by the poor because it was relatively cheaper than other drinks. Okay, I hate gin. I had it for my 18th birthday. We drank a whole bottle, and what happened was I puked the pancakes I ate this morning. And ever since then, I never liked gin. Vodka's fine. Gin, I hate till my grave. Champagne is one of my favorites because it's such a fancy drink, and it honestly it feels like I'm drinking water all the time when I'm drinking champagne. But my all-time favorite kind of drink is actually a light beer. uh, Apple beer, to be more specific. I like apple beers because they're delicious. But if I had a drink that, would drink every night, I would definitely drink tequila, a shot of tequila every night. Just a shot. Because it warms the body and it feels good every time I drink it. Anyways, superstition, a variety of literary works which dealt with odd phenomenon, mysterious magic, and phantom stories were very popular until the beginning of the 20th century. Spices. During the Victorian era, various spices were introduced to the exploitations of colonies and improvements made in transportation. In those days, those who could afford it used a lot of spices in their foods. Scotland is one of the countries that makes up the United Kingdom. It lies to the north of the England. It was merged with the United Kingdom in the 18th century, and scientists and engineers made great technology and advancements in the 19th century. Although Scotland rebelled twice against England in the 18th century, in the 19th century the relationship between the two countries was peaceful, if complicated. Absinthe is a liquor that was loved by the artists in the 19th century. I think I read this one and commented that absinthe can kill you if you drank too much. I also read Jack the Ripper, Soho. I think Soho, inhabited by immigrants, poor people. Yeah, I think I read this. Brothels and theaters. Egyptian mummy. Tombs of the pharaohs had been long targeted by tomb robbers. Yeah, I think I read this one about mummies. Duality. The greatest characteristics of Victorian era is duality. Ongoing industry of revolution, prosperity, and poverty emerged into a religion. There were refutations of and attacks on faith by the Great Awakening occurred at the same time. In the political, personal freedom had discussed, and yet the power of the government increased, and people committed all kinds of immoral acts behind their mask and propriety and respectful. Flyer. Advances made in the printing in technology in the Victorian era led to the cheaper and more accessible printing for everyone. Flyers commonly printed out of the new technology were advertisement for products, events, and hence killing of fucking trees everywhere. The death penalty was common sentence for many types of crimes, including murder. Before 1868, those sentenced to death were hanged publicly. In 1868, executions were only carried out in prisons. Superstition 1. The Victorians were greatly affected by both science and superstitions. Advancement in science were so rapid during this period that people were unable to separate science and superstitions. When it came to superstitions, spiritualism and mediums were very popular. Middle class households typically employ one or more servants and cook housework. I think I read this one. Crime was rife in London in the response for the Metropolitan Police Act in 1829. Was passed on the order to establish the Metropolitan Police. Initially, the police were not trusted and people were afraid that they would invade their freedom. Until now, by the way. As the number of police officers increased, it became easier to investigate crimes and maintain order, which was improved in the introduction of National Crime Record Standards in 1869. As more crimes were investigated and the others were maintained, the police gained the trust of the populace. Crystal Palace was built in Hyde Park in order for London to hold the Great Exhibition of 1851. The Crystal Palace was a wonder of civil engineering, being constructed from wood, cast iron, and thousands of sheets of plate glass. It was destroyed by the fire in 1936. Most workers of the Victorian era worked long hours and lived in poverty. A combination of unsafe working practices, poor diet, and disease meant that their average life expectancy was very low. A combination of long hours, poor working conditions, and low pay led to a rise of labor unrest and trade unionism as workers and their representatives advocated for better working conditions and pay. Pubs. A pub of public house was public house. Oh, really? That's what they're called, a public house. That's really cool. Something you learn every day. Was primarily where people got together, drink, and socialize. There were no entry restrictions, and people could play fun games or exchange information besides drinking. Damon and Pythias. I don't know if I pronounced that right, so forgive me. These appeared in ancient Greek myth. Pythias was accused and charged by creating a plot against the tyrannical Dionysus, Dionysus the first of Syracuse. He made a request of Dionysus that he'd be allowed to settle his affairs, including saying farewell to his mother. The king allows this on the condition that he leaves his friend Damon as a hostage so that Pythias does not return. Damon would be executed. However, Pythias, that sounds right, Pythias did not return for the day of his execution, just as the king expected. Yet, just as the king was about to execute Damon in his stead, on the following day, Pythias returned, apologizing for his delay. Pythias explains how he had been captured by pirates and thrown overboard. He managed to swim ashore and rush back to Syracuse just in time to save his friend. The king admired the friendship between the two and spared their lives. That's nice. Hyde. Hyde sounds just like the word hide. Ireland. Part of the British Isles, Ireland was dominated and ruled by the England for centuries. In 1801, when the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland was established. Despite the union, many Irish continued to agitate first for home rule and independence throughout the Victorian era and beyond. The Irish Free State was established in 1921 following the Great War, while Northern Ireland remained part of the United Kingdom. The Irish Free State continued to loosen its ties with the United Kingdom until it gained true independence of the Republic of Ireland in 1949. The Irish potato famine in 1845-1851 led to the deaths of millions of Irishmen and the immigration of another millions, mostly to the USA. It's also fueled anti-English sentiment as the fact that people despise and discriminated against the Irish people. Phantom of the Opera. Look out for MazM's third work, The Phantom of the Opera, coming soon. There's a first work. Nani, I have to go check that out. Charles Dickens, Victorian writer of the era. His novels portray the society of the time with the underlying themes of social criticism, compassion for the poor, and his major works included Oliver Twist. I have not read that. Christmas Carols, read that. Great Expectations. Cavendish Square is an actual square in London West. I think I read this one. And I think I read Thames, because I remember. Brandy was a popular spirit in Victorian Britain, often consumed after meals. It's produced distilling wine. Brandy is 35 to 60% alcohol levels, basically, I think. I'm not sure. Famous types of brandy is cognac. I like those. Armagnac, I don't know what that is, which is produced in France. Alright, I think I read this one. The main 19th century restricted. Okay, I'm out of breath, so I'll read the third and fourth ones little some time after. I'm out of breath. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye!